Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by asking you a question. What would you dare to do if you truly believed it was possible? Imagine a crowd so thick it's hard to breathe, people pushing, voices shouting, dust rising, and in the midst of it all, a woman, weak, shunned, broken. For 12 long years, she has carried her pain. She's heard the whispers, endured the stares. Doctors have failed her, hope has abandoned her, and yet, here she is. Why? Because she believes, and in that belief, there is courage. A courage so profound that it drives her to risk everything. She pushes through the crowd, not knowing if she'll make it. She reaches out, trembling, toward the edge of a road, just the edge. And with that single act of faith, her entire world changes. Let me tell you something. That woman isn't just a figure in a story. She is you. She is me. She is anyone who has ever faced a wall so high, a challenge so great, that it felt impossible to climb. You see, faith is not the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. It's believing in something greater, something beyond yourself. And the power of that belief, oh, it's unstoppable. It can heal wounds, mend hearts, and lift spirits higher than you ever thought possible. But here's the truth you need to hear. Faith demands action. You can sit on the sidelines, waiting for change, or you can step into the arena like that woman and reach for what you know is meant for you. So tonight I'm here to ask you, will you have the courage to believe, to push through the crowds of doubt, fear, and failure, to reach for the edge of your destiny, even when the odds seem stacked against you? By the end of this speech, I promise you one thing. You'll know that the same faith that healed that woman, that gave her a new beginning, is alive and available for you today. So sit back, lean in, and open your heart, because the journey we're about to take is one that could just change your life. Let's dive in. Faith transforms lives in ways that defy logic, challenge reason, and inspire change. It is not just a concept or a passive state of being. It is an active force, a decision, and a commitment to believe in something greater than oneself. The story in Mark 5:34 is a profound example of how faith can elevate the human spirit beyond limitations, providing a pathway to healing, restoration, and purpose. In the story, the woman with the issue of blood had every reason to give up. For 12 long years, she had suffered, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. She had exhausted her resources, seeking solutions that never came. Every attempt to find healing left her more broken, more isolated, and more hopeless. Yet, in her darkest hour, she held on to one thing: the belief that her situation could change. That belief, that unwavering faith, was the catalyst for her transformation. Faith is powerful because it shifts focus from what is seen to what is unseen. It reorients the mind and heart from the overwhelming weight of circumstances to the limitless possibilities of grace. For the woman in the story, faith wasn't just wishful thinking, it was a conviction so strong that it moved her to action. She didn't sit back and hope for healing to come to her. Instead, she stepped out, braved the crowd, and reached out for the one she believed could make her whole. That single act of faith changed her life forever. The transformative power of faith lies in its ability to redefine what is possible. Faith doesn't ignore the reality of pain, struggle, or adversity. It acknowledges them but refuses to be defined by them. The woman's faith allowed her to see beyond her current condition. She could have resigned herself to a life of suffering, but her belief in something greater opened the door to a future she had dared to imagine. Faith also inspires resilience. In a world that often tests the limits of endurance, faith provides the strength to persevere. The woman in Mark 5:34 had faced rejection, disappointment, and despair, but her faith gave her the courage to try again, to push past the voices of doubt and the barriers of her circumstances. This kind of faith is not naive, it is bold. It acknowledges the difficulty of the journey, but chooses to trust in the outcome. The ripple effect of faith is another testament to its transformative power. When one person demonstrates the courage to believe, it inspires others to do the same. The woman's story has echoed through generations, reminding countless individuals of the power of belief and the potential for change. Her faith not only transformed her life, but also became a beacon of hope for those who hear her story. Faith transforms lives because it connects the human spirit with divine possibility. It bridges the gap between where we are and where we can be. It reminds us that even in the face of the impossible, there is always hope. In the end, faith is more than just a belief. It is a force that empowers, heals, and inspires. It is the courage to take that first step, to reach out, and to trust that transformation is within reach. Courage amid adversity is one of the most profound demonstrations of the human spirit. It is the ability to stand firm, push forward, and hold on to hope, even when the odds seem insurmountable. In the story of the woman in Mark 5:34, we see this courage illuminated in a way that transcends time and resonates deeply with anyone who has faced hardship. Her journey is not just about physical healing, but about the triumph of faith over fear and determination over despair. Adversity is an unavoidable part of life. It comes in many forms: loss, failure, rejection, illness, and tests the very core of who we are. For the woman in the story, adversity had defined her life for 12 years. She faced not only the physical pain of her condition, but also the social stigma and isolation that came with it. In her culture, her illness rendered her unclean, cutting her off from community and worship. She was an outcast, a figure of pity or scorn. Despite all this, she did not let her circumstances dictate her destiny. Instead, she chose courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the choice to move forward despite it. The woman must have been afraid of being seen, judged, or rejected once more. Yet something within her refused to accept defeat. She had heard of Jesus, of his power to heal, and she decided to take a chance. That decision, born out of desperation but fueled by courage, set her on a path to transformation. She didn't let the fear of failure or the weight of her past hold her back. She didn't let the crowd intimidate her or the whispers deter her. She pressed on, driven by the belief that something better was possible. Courage amid adversity also requires vulnerability. To reach out to Jesus, the woman had to expose herself, not just physically by stepping into the crowd, but emotionally and spiritually. She had to confront the shame, pain, and doubt that had accompanied her for so long. She had to risk rejection one more time. Yet, it was in that moment of vulnerability that she found strength. Her courage wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, but resolute. It was the kind of courage that whispers, just one more step, even when the path ahead is uncertain. What makes her courage even more remarkable is that it wasn't fueled by a guarantee of success. She didn't know for certain that touching the edge of Jesus' robe would change anything, but she believed it could, and that belief was enough to inspire action. Courage doesn't wait for certainty. It acts in the face of uncertainty. It takes the leap, trusting that the landing will come. The woman's story is a testament to the power of courage amid adversity. It shows us that no matter how dire our circumstances, there is always a path forward if we are willing to take it. Courage doesn't erase the pain or eliminate the struggle, but it gives us the strength to face it. It reminds us that even in our weakest moments, we have the capacity to rise, to push through the crowd, and to claim the victory that faith makes possible. The power of one decision can shape the course of a life, defining who we are and what we stand for. In the story of the woman in Mark 5:34, a single moment of courage, fueled by faith, transformed her destiny. Her decision to act was not a grand spectacle, but a quiet, personal choice, a step that changed everything. This narrative reminds us that the choices we make, even in the smallest moments, can carry profound consequences. Life is a series of decisions, many of which may seem trivial in the moment, but sometimes there comes a decision that holds the weight of transformation, a decision that requires us to confront our fears, take a risk, or trust in something greater than ourselves. The woman in the story faced such a moment. For 12 years, she had suffered from an illness that left her physically weak and socially ostracized. She had spent everything she had on doctors who could not help her. Every avenue of hope seemed closed. Yet, in the midst of her despair, she made a choice to reach out. This decision was not made lightly. It was fraught with challenges. The woman knew the societal rules that dictated her exclusion. She knew the risk of being seen in public, let alone pushing through a crowd. And yet, she decided to act. What drove her was not the certainty of the outcome, but the possibility of it. She believed that if she could just touch the hem of Jesus' garment, she would be healed. It was this belief, this faith, that gave her the courage to take that step. One of the most remarkable aspects of her decision is that it required no grand gestures, no dramatic proclamations. She didn't call out or demand attention. She didn't need to make her case. All she did was reach out, quietly, humbly, and with purpose. Sometimes, the most significant decisions in life are like this. They are not about making noise, but about taking action. However small it may seem, the power of her decision lay in its simplicity and her unwavering belief that it mattered. Her choice also reflects the essence of faith in action. Faith is not passive. It demands movement. It calls us to step out even when the outcome is uncertain. The woman didn't wait for circumstances to align perfectly. She didn't let fear or doubt paralyze her. She acted, and in doing so, she opened the door for transformation. Her decision was the bridge between her suffering and her healing, her despair and her hope. This story teaches us that every decision carries the potential to change our lives. Even the smallest step forward can have a ripple effect, influencing not only our own journey, but also those around us. The woman's choice to believe and act has inspired countless others throughout history. Her courage reminds us that we are not powerless, even in the face of great adversity. We always have a choice: to stay where we are or to reach for something greater. The power of one decision is immense because it represents the moment when faith meets action. It is the turning point where possibilities are born and lives are transformed. Whether it is a decision to forgive, to try again, or to take a leap of faith, every choice we make has the potential to reshape our story. Like the woman in Mark 5:34, we are all one decision away from a breakthrough, a new beginning, and a life redefined by faith and courage. Faith is not a passive concept. It is active and dynamic, demanding movement, determination, and a willingness to step into the unknown. The story of the woman in Mark 5:34 illustrates this truth powerfully. Her faith was not limited to a belief in her mind or heart. It translated into action that transformed her life. This narrative serves as a reminder that faith, when put into motion, becomes a force capable of overcoming obstacles, breaking barriers, and creating miracles. The woman's journey begins with an internal conviction, a belief that her circumstances could change. But what sets her apart is what she does with that belief. She doesn't sit idly by waiting for a solution to come to her. Instead, she acts on her faith, taking the bold step of entering the crowd and reaching out to Jesus. This decision required more than hope. Her faith was not merely an abstract idea. It was a living, breathing force that compelled her to move. Faith as action often requires stepping out of comfort zones. For 12 years, the woman had been isolated, living in the shadows due to her condition. Stepping into the crowd meant risking humiliation, rejection, and even punishment. The cultural and social norms of her time dictated that she should remain unseen and unheard. Yet, her faith pushed her beyond those limitations. Now, I wasn't even going to think she was willing to face the stares, the whispers, and the judgment of others because she believed that the act of reaching out could lead to her healing. Faith calls us to do the same, to confront our fears, challenge societal expectations, and take steps toward the life we are meant to live. What makes faith truly powerful is that it doesn't wait for ideal conditions. The woman didn't wait for the crowd to thin out or for Jesus to notice her. She acted in the midst of chaos, uncertainty, and adversity. This is the essence of faith in action. It operates in the present, in the here and now. It refuses to be paralyzed by fear or doubt. It chooses to move forward, even when the path is unclear. Faith doesn't guarantee immediate results, but it sets the process of transformation into motion. Another key aspect of faith as action is its intentionality. The woman's act of reaching out was not random or accidental. It was purposeful and deliberate. She didn't merely hope for a miracle, she pursued it. This intentionality reflects the kind of faith that changes lives. It's not about waiting for life to happen to us. It's about taking steps, however small, toward the change we seek. Her story reminds us that faith isn't passive optimism, it's active participation in the process of transformation. The ripple effects of faith in action extend beyond the individual. The woman's story has inspired countless people throughout history to act on their own faith. Her courage and determination demonstrate that when we take even the smallest steps in faith, they can lead to monumental outcomes. Faith in action not only transforms our lives, but also serves as a beacon of hope for others, encouraging them to move forward in their own journeys. Ultimately, faith as action is about trusting in what is possible and taking steps toward it, even when the path is uncertain. It's about aligning belief with behavior, conviction with commitment. Like the woman in Mark 5:34, we are called to reach out, to move forward, and to trust that our faith, when put into action, has the power to create miracles and transform lives. Victory through faith is not just a concept, it is a reality that unfolds when belief and divine grace come together to overcome life's most difficult challenges. In the story of the woman in Mark 5:34, we witness a powerful demonstration of how faith, when coupled with grace, leads to victory. Her journey from despair to healing is a testament to the transformative power of faith, and it teaches us that no matter how dire the situation, there is always the possibility of victory through unwavering belief. At the core of her victory is her belief. For 12 long years, the woman had endured physical suffering, social isolation, and emotional despair. She had exhausted all her resources in the pursuit of a cure, only to face repeated failures and growing hopelessness. Yet even in the depths of her pain, she chose to believe that something could change. She didn't know how, when, or where, but she had faith that if she could just touch the hem of Jesus' garment, her suffering would end. That belief was the first step in her victory. Faith is powerful because it sees beyond the present circumstances. It does not deny the reality of pain, but it holds on to the belief that there is something greater waiting. The woman's faith wasn't a vague hope, it was a firm conviction that her healing was possible. This type of faith empowers individuals to rise above their circumstances, not by ignoring the pain, but by believing that there is more to life than what is immediately visible. And it is the kind of faith that holds on even when everything around us says to let go. But faith alone is not enough to guarantee victory. It must be paired with grace, the divine gift that turns the impossible into the possible. When the woman touched the edge of Jesus' robe, she wasn't just reaching out physically. She was also reaching into a space of divine grace, where miracles unfold. It was in that moment of faith that Jesus responded, not only healing her physically, but also affirming her spiritual victory. He told her, "Your faith has healed you." This statement was more than a declaration of her physical healing. It was a recognition of the power of her faith to connect with God's grace and bring about a victory that transcended her earthly suffering. Victory through faith is also a reminder that the ultimate outcome is not always seen in the way we expect. The woman's victory wasn't simply the cessation of her illness. It was the restoration of her dignity, her identity, and her place within the community. By acknowledging her faith, Jesus reconnected her to her worth, affirming that she was not defined by her suffering. God. Victory through faith is holistic. It touches every aspect of life, from physical health to emotional well-being and spiritual wholeness. Furthermore, the victory experienced by the woman is not just hers alone. It extends beyond her to inspire others. Her story is a beacon of hope for anyone facing overwhelming challenges, showing that no matter how long the struggle or how deep the pain, victory is possible through faith. It demonstrates that no one is beyond the reach of divine grace, and no obstacle is too great for belief to overcome. Her victory has become a testimony that continues to inspire and encourage countless others to step out in faith, believing that their own victories are within reach. Victory through faith is about more than the outcome. It is about the journey of believing, the courage to act, and the trust that, in the end, faith connects us with the divine grace that leads us to our greatest triumphs. Like the woman in Mark 5:34, each of us has the opportunity to experience victory through faith, knowing that no matter how dark the night, the light of grace is always waiting to shine through. It's unclear, not exactly who said it. It was maybe Paul or Isaiah. But they did say, the story of the woman with the issue of blood in Mark 5:34 is not just an ancient account. It is a living testament to the power of faith, courage, and the relentless pursuit of hope. This woman, who faced years of suffering and despair, showed us that faith isn't a passive state. It is an active, transformative force that demands movement, that drives us to reach beyond our limitations, and that can bring victory even in the darkest of circumstances. Her courage to believe in the face of adversity is a challenge to each of us. It calls us to step out, to take that first step of faith, even when the road ahead seems uncertain. Her one decision, made in a moment of desperation, but fueled by an unshakable belief, changed her life forever, and in doing so, she became a beacon of hope for all of us. Victory through faith isn't just a dream. It is a reality available to all who dare to believe, act, and trust in something greater than themselves. It doesn't promise a life free from struggles, but it promises that through those struggles, we can find grace, healing, and restoration. The woman's story is a reminder that no matter what we face, faith has the power to transform our lives in ways we can't always predict, but always trust will lead us to victory. So as we leave here today, let us carry her story in our hearts. Let it be a reminder that when we have the courage to believe, to act on that belief, and to trust in divine grace, there is nothing beyond our reach, no challenge too great, no situation too dire, because with faith, all things are possible. Let us step forward in faith, knowing that victory through belief is not just a distant hope. It is a present reality waiting for each of us to claim.